those are good numbers, but there are other costs. I mean, aside from the direct financial cost that you see stipulated think about the torts, and the tort is a lawyer's term for someone suing somebody. I can't count the number of anecdotes I have heard from people that say, I was hit and run by someone, and as soon as I saw who it was, they took off because they didn't want to deal with it. Folks, that means your insurance premiums go up because that damage has to be paid for. And we can't count the number of torts, these things getting that people would have been sued for, but they run away because they're afraid of being found out. And then, of course, we're giving social services to these folks, and you've seen the numbers I just showed you a minute ago, and those social services are draining a lot of resources. Now, in addition to that, I think there are social costs that come against the nation. I worry that we are losing our identity of the United States of America. And you all have been to history courses, and you've been to, college courses, and you talk about what defines a nation. Well, one of the things that defines a nation is a common language, because that's how we communicate, and that's how we relate to each other. We're losing that, I fear. I worry that we're losing unity as a culture. And I'm sure that when an episode happens, and again, we've got some knowledge of what happens in police departments, we hear anecdotes, as do you start to worry. You start to worry, there are people here who don't belong here, and my government can't seem to do anything to stop it. Now, folks, I will give you what could be regarded as a cynical view, but my view is that there are people in government who don't want to solve this problem. They don't want to fix it. And we've got one party that sees a constant vote from people of certain ethnicities that support them, and they don't want to do anything to risk that. And then we see another party that generally is viewed as favoring business, and they see a ready supply of labor that works a lot cheaper. My view is we've got to take the political courage to challenge the status quo, to put people in office who are willing to tackle the problem. These are the things I think we need to do. And we've seen, members of both parties say, yep, we need to fix it. But it just seems like nobody ever says, okay, here's my bill to fix it. The only bill I am aware of is the one that John McCain was a co-sponsor of that proposed amnesty as part of the so-called solution. And that is wrong. And that's coming from the supposedly conservative side of the aisle. Next chart. Now, 4 steps, in my view. And the first is we've got to seal the borders. Now, in 2001, we started getting serious about this, and we talked about something called the Secure Border Initiative, or SBI. The program was underfunded. Its schedule slipped, and the program is broken, and we need to fix that. Now, some in other countries have said, how dare you do that? And some in other countries have said, don't you see the social cost to us if you seal up that border? Well, folks, we are a sovereign nation. We have the right to defend our borders. Now, there are obviously some no's, and yes, sir, you have a question. Let me give you the microphone. Everybody can hear you.
Okay, one of the things that a lot of people are unaware of, one of the reasons the borders are not sealed, why the government put it up, to be able to do things. I heard a comment yesterday called guinea pigs. But anyway, the government in Mexico has threatened to stop exporting oil to us if we seal the borders. The politicians here have bowed down to the government of Mexico, and they have agreed not to seal the border in order to get oil from Mexico. This is wrong. Seal the border now.
Thank you, sir. If you're not aware, this gentleman is a veteran of the Army, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force. Is that right? You're a veteran of the Army, the
Well, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Army, yes. My son is currently in he did 3 tours in Iraq. He is currently teaching at West Point. He had another 3 years to go. He is also, his first book has been published. My son-in-law and my daughter are both ex-Air Force. We're quite a military family.
Well, I'm glad part of your family chose the right service to belong to. I'm just kidding. Okay, well, we've got to finish that project, and we've got to fund it. And we'll talk about funding here in a minute. Go ahead. Now, the second thing is, if you're not aware, when local law enforcement officers apprehend someone who is here illegally, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, generally won't accept them. And their rule of thumb is, unless a major crime has been committed, or unless you have a large concentration of illegal immigrants, we don't want them. That's wrong. So, go ahead, Mike, next chart. The law says this, and I'll spare you the pain of reading it all, but it says that if you're here illegally, you can be put in jail. But we're not doing that. And what we're saying is, you know, you've only got 5 people here who are here illegally, so turn them loose. We don't want them. It is my view that we must require ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to accept these people as criminals when they're apprehended. Now, the net effect of all this is, and you saw the number of fugitives that we have on the loose that are illegal immigrants, and that's what happens when we don't enforce the laws we have. Go ahead. Now, yeah, go back to the previous one, please. From the ICE perspective, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they're going to say, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough facilities. Well, are we serious about solving this problem or aren't we? And if we're truly serious about solving this, we need to capture some of the money that we're spending on illegal immigrants and put it into solving the problem. We are losing hundreds of billions of dollars in social services and other costs because we're not enforcing this law. And we need to. And we need to redirect that money to fix the problem. Go ahead, Mike. Now, my view is part of an appropriation bill to ICE, to the Department of Homeland Security, would be, you get your appropriation this year, but you got to start doing what you're supposed to be doing. Next year. Now, the third is, we've got to be reasonable about due process. Part of our legal code is that everyone gets a chance to be heard. We don't do mass rounds up and martial law. We do things lawfully and rightfully. Next chart, please. Everyone is entitled to due process, but it shouldn't take years, and it shouldn't take months. It probably, in this case, shouldn't even take days. It is my proposal that to solve part of this problem, we collect people who are here illegally, we detain them, we hand them over to ICE, and then they get a hearing. But the hearing happens within 24 hours. And if there's reasonable suspicion that the person is here legally, then they're set free, with our apologies. But if they're found to be here illegally, they're deported. Now, this needs to happen very quickly. Now, another principle of our legal system is that you get an appeal. I mean, maybe the judge was having a bad day. And my proposal would be they get one appeal, but it happens within 7 days. And that's it. Next chart. Oh, and I should add, back up one, Mike, if you would. I should add that as these people are being deported, they are fingerprinted and they are photographed, and they're told that they're okay, good. Now, geographic boundaries, this just shows the district courts that are existing. So I'm not talking about creating some new legal system and spending a bunch of money.